What's going on, everybody? Z Fearson here. Long time no vid, I know. But a lot has happened, at least with me, in the last few weeks, as I posted on my feed, as you guys have seen. Um, First off, I moved. As you probably noticed, a new background. Kind of in a corner wall, but I have my own desk and everything. I actually have my own space. This is now my own actual house. So that was one big thing that happened. It was a lot. It took a long time to pack, of course, and to get everything moved in and set up and organized. Probably some of you know how that relates. So there was that. So I didn't really have time to post a lot of videos during that time. My job is full time now, so I don't have a whole. I get a whole lot of days off. I just came off a stretch of 5 days straight. So it's going to be really kind of hard for me to do some vids lately if schedules don't line up. But I'm going to try real hard. Because this channel, as I've also mentioned on the feed, is kind of going to go in a different direction. The weekly word thing, I really tried. I really, really wanted to have a full-on desire for it. But after a while, it just got to a point where either I didn't really have full time to do it once a week, or to just really get into it. Plus, I also when I was going to record the next one, I got sick. The day after I went to a Pacer game with my best friend in Indianapolis, I came back Wednesday and it just hit me like a hurricane. And I think Friday of last week, I was in bed for 2 hours over what I normally get up at. I didn't get up at 11:30. I've been taking stuff out the wazoo, and I'm still somewhat, as you can hear, I'm still slowly getting over it. It's kind of lingering. At least the cough is anyway. I had a sore throat. I had a stuffy nose. I had headaches. It was just a full on head cold, I think. So, but better than I was. So that's good. And slowly but surely, much better than I was. So that's the important thing. So kind of going to go in a different direction now. I mentioned on the feed, on the comments, that when like a big story breaks out in like the sports world or something like that, I'll maybe share my take on my opinion on it. And I'm going to do that in this video for you guys as well, share my thoughts on a couple things out there going on. And also I'm gonna normally every year, like when it gets about January, February, when it gets close to the NCAA tournament, when it comes to college basketball, I like to make bracket projections. I am a huge bracketologist. I've done this probably for the past, I want to say 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy breaking down all the resumes of the teams that are out there to see who might be in, who's a bubble team, who's not going to be in, who's in, who's out, kind of thing. So that's really exciting. And I like to compare to some big guys, big names out there. One guy that I usually tend to disagree with a lot, and you'll maybe see some jokes on my Facebook page, is Joe Lenardi of ESPN. He sometimes puts in teams that I don't even consider putting in my bracket. Like last week, he was making some, like, I think currently, and I think this is updated, two of his last four in were Villanova and California. And I really had not seen yet. They were not even on my watch list, what they had done to warrant getting in the field. But then I take a look at their resumes, and I actually see that, okay, they've beaten some solid teams. Their computer numbers are very strong. And they're in strong conferences. The Big East is obvious. So the Big East is going to get a lot of teams in this year. Of course, the Big Ten is going to get a lot in this year. But the Big East might even get as many as 8 in this year. That's pretty scary. But they've also done that in years past too. I think last year before, they got 9 or 10 in. So excuse me, sorry. So the Big East definitely strong. The Pac-12 not as strong, but there are certainly some teams in the bubble discussion, like Arizona State, for example. Obviously Cal. Colorado is, I think, in, but they're hanging by a thread. They don't have a whole lot to ride on in their profile, but their computer numbers are strong. So there's a lot to dissect there. And on Friday of this week, what I'm going to try to do now, the conference tournaments are going to start up in early March. Bids will be handed out. The Ivy League will probably hand out theirs very soon because the conference champion clinches the on-mat bid to the NCAA tournament. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try to post a one bracket projection per week as we get closer to Selection Sunday, which is March 17th. And I'm going to break down on here, why I have in, who I have in, the matchups that I have, why some teams are in or out, bubble teams, all that. I'm going to break it down in these videos. I love March Madness with a passion. I am just, I'm a college basketball fan in general, but I root for my school. But I can't root for them much this year because Purdue is a big time disappointment. They're probably going to get to the NIT. But I love college basketball in general. It's so exciting, especially come tournament time when you're seeing who's the upset going to be, who's going to make that amazing run like George Mason of years past or VCU or Butler. Who's going to be that team? Are we going to see a shocker last year like we had 215s winning with Norfolk State and Lehigh? What are we going to have? So I'm really stoked to see, what, and what's amazing this year is that it's kind of a parity year. There really isn't a dominant team out there. You could make a case for a number of different teams right now in the country and say, yeah, they have a legitimate shot at winning the whole thing. And we had a span of 5 straight weeks, where the number one team in the country lost the same week that they were named number one. It happened to IU twice. It happened to Duke twice. So it's definitely hasn't happened to Miami yet. Miami now is very close to being number one. They're number two now in the country. But IU tonight has to play at Michigan State, and they're number four, and that's not easy. And Victor Oladipo, is he going to play? Is he going to be 100%? So there's a lot of questions surrounding the teams at the top, and a lot of parity in college basketball. So that's why this year it's more exciting than ever. So I'm really stoked to see what's going to happen down the road. So yeah, on here within these next couple weeks, I'm going to share with you guys my projections. Bubble teams, who's in, who's out, why are they in or out, what's their resume look like compared to other teams. It's really all about comparing resumes and looking at what the NCAA term, and you'll hear this term all the time with the bracketologists and all their projections. They call it the full body of work. And you have to look at what a team has been through. You have to look at all these important numbers that the committee looks for. I try to make it as close to being a pseudo committee member as possible. I try to be in that position. I look at RPI. I look at strength of schedule. I look at their records against the top 50 and the top 100. I look at their records in the last 10 games or last 12 games. I look at their road and neutral record, which is also very important. And you look at, do they have any bad losses? Are they fading of late, or are they a hot team? So that, conference record, really not big time considered it's not as heavy as in years past, but still a thing to look at. So there's a lot to break down. There's a lot to go through, but it'll be exciting in these coming days. Excuse me. To come. So Friday, first bracket projection will be on here to share with you guys. It's my fourth bracket I've released this year. And I'm starting to update every week now as the game's being played. The kind of the who's in, who's out, back and forth. So that's always going to be in flux and changing. But I did want to share my 2 cents real quick on one big college basketball story that happened last week. And I was watching this game on TV when this happened. And, let me say one thing perfectly clear. I'm a college basketball fan. I'm not a Kentucky fan by any stretch. But I must say that what John Calipari has been able to do there during his time there is absolutely incredible. And you can have your thoughts on the one and done thing with the players that he gets, that they all go. His whole starting five went to the NBA last year, and you can say whatever you want about that. But you have to feel, at least I do, for Kentucky Nation right now. What happened to Nerlens Noel in the Florida game, that was just absolutely devastating. I was watching that play in real time, and on a hustle play, no less. When he actually, and he made the block. He made the block on the guy that was going for the obvious uncontested layup, and to see that happen, you really couldn't see what the knee did with all the camera angles they showed. I mean, yeah, it looked kind of funny. I didn't even see it hit the support, to be quite honest with you. They said it hit the basket support. I didn't see that in all the angles they showed, but I certainly saw it take a kind of awkward angle, and I knew right away when he went down to the floor screaming in pain. I'm thinking to myself, "Oh yeah, that's something that's got to be really bad." And I immediately felt for Kentucky. Um, because he was the main force. He was, granted, they have talent across the board with guys like Poitras and Julius Mays and Cauley Stein and all these guys on the roster, but Noel really was their main, and he was a big time shot blocker too. I don't know if he was already like setting like conference records or on pace to or whatever, but he was an enforcer in excuse me, inside. And so it was just so hard to see him go down like that, and have the players had to literally carry him off the court. That was tough to watch too. So then obviously we were asking ourselves the question when we found out the severity of it, when we found out that it was indeed a torn ACL and that he was done for the season. The question then became, what is this Kentucky team going to look like without Noel for the rest of the season? And we quickly found it out the first game out of the box. The team goes to Tennessee, which is currently definitely a non-tournament team, and they lose by 30. They lose by 30 to Tennessee. Um, and that's one of Calipari's worst losses. So definitely, clearly, excuse me, a different team without him. Now, granted, that's only one game, but you know that the committee is going to look at Kentucky without Noel. Everything now that they've done in the past, well, you don't want to say that it's worthless. It's at least meaningless because now they're going to be judged on how they play without their pretty much their star player. So at this point, it's definitely a tough thing for Kentucky. At this point, I do have them out of the field, and not even one of the last four out. I think Lenardi has him as one of his last four out, but I don't even have him that close because the fact that they did lose by 30 to Tennessee. They're 0-4 against the top 50, which doesn't help their cause. Um, yeah, they're above 500 in a pretty decent SEC, but other teams are fading. The only real two guarantees that are going to come out of the SEC right now, at least in my opinion, are Florida and Missouri. That's pretty much it. Mississippi is starting to fade, although I think they're barely in right now. Kentucky's out. Alabama and Arkansas, yeah, they're making cases, but their numbers are still kind of need some more quality wins on the resume. So there's a lot to like in the SEC, but right now there's not a whole lot of substance. So it really just depends on what these teams do down the stretch and maybe get some help from other teams, other bubble teams that fall short for these teams to find a way into the field. But for Kentucky, a very, very tough situation. And now we're just going to have to see how they respond coming off this 30-point loss to Tennessee. Are they going to be the same team, or are they going to bounce back and have a big game? It really just depends. Kentucky is going to be heavily, heavily scrutinized down the stretch um, because of this injury. So definitely a team to watch over the coming weeks to come. Um, so yeah, I just had to feel like I had to share my 2 cents with you guys on that one. It was just a devastating thing when I watched it. So real quick though, I do want to share my current status, at least for kind of the who's in, who's out kind of thing. Again, I won't have a bracket projection up yet until Friday, but I'll be updating like the who's in, who's out daily. As the games are being played and as things change, obviously a couple big games tonight. Of course, the IU Michigan State game is huge. How cool also is it that Magic Johnson is going to be broadcasting that game with the ESPN crew, with Dick Vitale and all that. And that's going to be really, really cool for Magic to come back to his alma mater where he won the national championship in 1979 and broadcast that game. It's going to be huge, but the fans are going to go nuts. And the fans, and always the ISOM, tough student section to play in, one of the toughest in the country. Mad props to the ISOM. It's definitely a very tough place to play, one of the toughest student sections in the country. So it's going to be a tough atmosphere for anyone who comes in there. It's tough. Some Big Ten arenas are just so tough to play in. Michigan State's is tough. IU's obviously is tough. Wisconsin's is tough. They had like a long winning streak for a while there. Mackey Arena is tough. So there's just a lot of tough venues in the Big Ten to play at. But excuse me. But yeah, that's going to be a big one. But let me share with you guys where I stand right now on a lot of these different things. Um, right now, as of this very moment, my last four in the field would be Charlotte out of the A10, Baylor out of the Big 12, and then, like I mentioned, Cal and Villanova. Those four right now are my last four in. Their resumes aren't as strong, but their numbers are good enough, I think, that they would warrant a look in. My first four out, Maryland. Maryland is very close. Maryland is getting closer. That win over Duke last week really helped the Terps, but they still have a little bit of ways to go. Indiana State really hurt themselves last week, losing to Bradley. Indiana State has a very head-scratching resume, kind of like Virginia. They have some great wins. They've beaten three top 50 teams, including Miami, who, as we know, is the number 2 team in the country. But they also have now, I think, 6 bad losses. They've lost to Morehead State, to Southern Illinois, to Drake, to Missouri State, and now to Bradley. So 5. 5 bad losses, 5 for the Sycamores. That really kind of outweighs the good here. It's a scale, and it's really not good for Indiana State. So they're on the outs right now. Air Force is an intriguing story. They're one of my first 4 out. They've got some strong numbers, some decent wins, and also Arizona State. Arizona State's kind of been back and forth between the good line and the bad line all season long, but their numbers are kind of on the low side of things there, so they're also one of the first 4 out as well. If you're looking at teams right now that are locks, really, to me, that are not like automatic qualifiers from the conferences, like the one bid leagues. I'm not really going to mention here because we don't know who's going to come out of those till their conference tournaments. But if I would say locks right now, I would say Virginia Commonwealth, St. Louis, and Butler out of the A10. Obviously, Miami and Duke out of the ACC. I also have NC State as a lock. I think they have enough quality wins that NC State's going to be okay. Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State out of the Big 12. I think they're safely in the field. Big East, I have 7 locks right now. I think these teams have enough quality wins that they're going to be safely in the field. Syracuse, Georgetown, Marquette, Louisville, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I think those 7 are all going to be fairly safely in the field. I can't imagine a scenario where any one of those 7 misses the field. Obviously, the only question mark in the Big East is Villanova. Excuse me. Big Ten locks, obviously, Indiana, Michigan State, Michigan. Wisconsin is a lock. They have 6 top 50 wins, folks. There's no way Wisconsin's missing. I think Illinois now is a lock. Illinois had a big week last week. They won all 4 games last week that they played. They get this. Illinois at one point was a 2-7 bubble team. Now they're a 6-7 lot because they beat solid teams, including Indiana's. So they were number 1. So Illinois, I think, now is a lock to get in. And I also think Minnesota. I know Minnesota's also been fading down the stretch of late, but I think their numbers are way too solid. They have like an RPI of 15 and an SOS of 8. I can't see that missing the tournament. Also, Conference USA. I think Memphis is going to be okay. I mean, yeah, they don't have a whole lot to show for on their resume, but I think they'll win the I can't see them necessarily where they don't win the Conference USA tournament. If they don't, they definitely will be looked at, but I think they'll be okay. Let's see. Others. Mountain West. Mountain West is dangerous this year. New Mexico, I think, is a lock to get in, as is Colorado State, UNLV, San Diego State. I think those 4 have too many quality wins. Pac-12 locks, to me, Oregon, Arizona, UCLA. I think those 3 are pretty well safe. And actually, I said I made a mistake. I said the only locks in the SEC were Florida and Missouri. I don't have Missouri as quite as a lock yet. I think they still need maybe one more quality win to get in, but Florida's definitely a lock for me. And then that's pretty much it besides just the 1 bid leagues. So here's my middle list. Here are the teams that are kind of on the teeter-totter. This is kind of the in but not safe list. Oklahoma has an RPI of 17. It's hard to imagine them missing the field, but they only have 2 quality wins. If they keep winning, though, I think they're going to get to that lock status very soon. Colorado, again, kind of another team to be a shock if they miss the field. 21 RPI, a 17-8 record. They beat Colorado State, they beat Oregon, they beat Arizona, but they also had a bad loss against Utah. As long as they don't really have a misstep, I think they'll be okay. Ohio State, I don't have them as fully safe lock yet. Their RPI is strong, 27. You're in the best RPI conference as a whole, but they had so many opportunities last week to get more big wins on the resume, and they just didn't do it. They only have 2 quality wins. If Ohio State could beat Minnesota and Michigan State back-to-back, they should be okay. They should get up to lock status real quick. North Carolina, they're close. Their RPI is 30. The numbers are great, but they only have 1 quality win. That was against UNLV. They really can't afford a bad loss here, but they have to beat NC State, I think, to really get closer to that lock status. LaSalle out of the A10, 18-6, a 33 RPI. There's really not many opportunities for quality wins ahead, but I think they're still a fairly solid team. If they get to 20 wins, I think LaSalle will be okay. Again, I have Missouri on this list, but I think they should be okay too. If they beat Florida, though, in their next game, that would shoot them right up into Locksville, baby. Missouri would be definitely okay if they beat Florida. If they lose, they really can't afford any missteps. They have Kentucky on the schedule. They cannot afford to lose to a shorthanded Kentucky team without Nerlens Noel. Boise State out of the Mountain West is an interesting case. 16-8, a 42 RPI. They have a good win over UNLV, but now the Creighton win suddenly doesn't seem all that great because Creighton now is kind of falling off into the situation too. They need to beat fellow bubble team Air Force and maybe even beat Colorado State on March 2nd to really maybe get to that lock status. So keep an eye on Boise State. Speaking of, Creighton is also on this list. To think that a few months ago, Creighton was probably as close as a lock you could get. They were rolling. They were a highly ranked team in the country. But now they've suffered some losses, and they're right in the middle of the teeter-totter here. You know, it really now becomes critical for Creighton to not only have to beat St. Mary's in the bracket buster game, you got to beat conference leader Wichita State, but you can't suffer any more bad losses either. Iowa State, Cyclones look pretty good. They're at 46 RPI. They have good wins over Kansas State and Oklahoma, but if you beat fellow bubble team Baylor, I think you're good, or if you even beat Kansas, Iowa State will definitely be in Locksville as well. Temple out of the A10, Temple, another interesting kind of case. Temple has 3 solid wins, but really also 3 ugly losses, and that's really, that puts them squarely on the bubble. If they beat LaSalle and Charlotte in the coming weeks, that would probably get them over the hump. So Temple definitely in the discussion. As I mentioned, Charlotte right now is on my last 4 teams in. Certainly not safe, though. 18-7 record, a 49 RPI. They can't really afford a bad loss in their schedule, but really they don't really have quality win opportunities coming up in their next 4 games. So Charlotte really can't afford to stumble at this point. They've just got to keep winning and hope that they get some help along the way to see their situation. Their situation really shaky. Mississippi, 19-6 and a 53 RPI. They have really started to fade down the stretch. They only really have a win over Missouri to hang their hat on, and Missouri's not really safe right now either. But because the bubble is so soft this year, Mississippi I still have barely in the field. But if they suffer even one bad loss, I think Mississippi's out of the field. So all of their next 4 games are against current non-tournament teams. So they cannot afford a misstep. Mississippi has to keep winning games. You come to California, 16-9, a 54 RPI. They are currently one of my last 4 in. They've had this Villanova-like surge of late. They've beaten Oregon, Arizona, and UCLA, who are my 3 locks for Pac-12 teams. So they've beaten the 3 Locksville teams, which is great. That means Cal looks like a turning team. They have no bad losses on the resume. That's also good for Cal. So Cal looks like a turning team. If they can beat Oregon again, if they can win at Oregon, dare I say, Cal could punch their ticket to Locksville, folks. They are certainly looking like a great team of late. We talked about Baylor. 16-9, a 55 RPI. They also are one of my last four in. Their best win right now is against Oklahoma State, which is a good win because Oklahoma State's residing in Lawrenceville. But the other is against that fading Kentucky team. So really you can't put much weight now on that because of the fact that Kentucky is slowly fading down the stretch. In order to really warrant a strong look, they have to be Iowa State, they have to be Oklahoma. I think those are the two key games coming up for Baylor that are huge. Um, and the last team that's really on this list, as I mentioned, is Villanova. I don't like the fact they have double-digit losses. That kind of scares me a bit. But 17-10, nothing to sneeze at. A 58 RPI, that's good numbers too. They've come out of nowhere. They really have three strong wins. Beat Louisville, beat Syracuse, the conference leader, and beat UConn. And even though UConn not eligible for the tournament this year, obviously because of the postseason ban situation due to the poor APR scores, but still UConn's RPI very, very high. So that's still a quality win. But that loss to Columbia early in the year by, I think it was like by double digits, that still hangs heavy on the resume. So if they can beat Marquette and win at Pittsburgh, again, I think Villanova could certainly move up into Lawrenceville because of all the quality wins that they have. All right, so finally, here are kind of the true bubble teams. These guys I don't have in the field just yet, but with a couple wins and maybe some shortcomings by some other teams, they could sneak their way into the field. The top team is Southern Miss, and the numbers are strong. They're a 20-win team, 40 RPI. The problem is they're in a very weak Conference USA. The only other good team is Memphis, and that, and they're 0-4 against the top 50. They have no quality wins in their resume, and that does not get you in the NCAA tournament field. Unless the Golden Eagles beat Memphis in the rematch, they might just have to win the Conference USA tournament, probably against Memphis, to get into the field for sure. So definitely going to be a tough road ahead for Southern Miss. Kentucky, obviously. What to do with the Wildcats? Well, I mentioned it. Now that Noel is done for the year, it's going to take into account how the team performs without Nerlens Noel on the roster. At the moment, 0-1 with a 30-point loss to Tennessee. Plus, they're also 0-4 against the top 50. So winning out, and this is a rhyme, but it works. Winning out may be paramount, but even that might not be enough in the long run if they don't get some quality wins. They might have to win a couple games in the SEC tournament. So, like I said, Kentucky will be very, very heavily scrutinized under the NCAA magnifying glass from here on out. St. Mary's is another intriguing case of a big, high-profile major, but might not have enough to get in. They are 22-5. They're barely in the top 50 of the RPI. They're right on the 50 in the RPI. So you would think that this team wouldn't miss, but they don't lead the conference. That's clearly Gonzaga far and away. They don't have any top 50 wins, and their strength of schedule is horrendous. 149. Ouch. And unfortunately, they didn't get a great matchup in the bracket buster. Now they have to play a fading Creighton team, which is struggling, and that won't help unless Creighton bounces back. This really, for St. Mary's, it needs serious, serious help if they really want to have any chance of getting into the field. Now you kind of go into the bit of the long shots. These are kind of teams that, they're in the discussion, but they would need really a lot of big help to get in. UMass out of the A10, 16-8, a 56 RPI. They're a bit of a long shot. Their numbers are solid, but they only have one quality win. They might need to win out and get some big wins to really have any chance of a look. Alabama, 17-8, a 59 RPI. They only really have the big win against the fully healthy Kentucky. And they have a bad loss to Auburn on the schedule. They can't afford a bad loss down the stretch. Beating Florida on March 2nd may be imperative to warrant a strong look for Alabama. I mentioned Indiana State, 16-10 record, a 60 RPI now. They have this Virginia-like profile. Mentioned the teams that they beat, but I mentioned the teams that they lost. Beating Wichita State for them now becomes a must before we look at this team again. And if they lose one more bad game, it might just knock them completely out of the NCAA tournament discussion. Wyoming. Boy, what a collapse for Wyoming. To think that this team at one point was one of the last four unbeaten teams left in the entire country. But now they're sitting at 18-7, a 62 RPI. They're 4-7 in a very competitive Mountain West, and they're hanging by a thread. They only have two quality wins on the resume. Beating San Diego State and UNLV back-to-back would certainly help Wyoming's cause. Maryland, as I said, is very close. 18-7 record, a 63 RPI. The win over Duke helps, but the numbers kind of still really rough. All four of their next games, though, for Maryland are very winnable games. It won't add their quality wins because all these four are against non-tournament teams, but Maryland has to keep winning. They have to keep winning to really have any shot. They can't afford to add those bad losses to their resume. BYU is another one that's been up and down all year, a 19-8 record, a 68 RPI. They look solid early in the year, but they've lost some bad games to San Diego and San Francisco out of the West Coast Conference. So it's really hurt their chances. Plus, again, 0-4 against the top 50, never a good thing. You have to beat St. Mary's now, the fellow bubble team, and you have to beat Gonzaga. Those are now must-wins for the Cougars to really warrant a serious look. I mentioned Air Force. 15-9 record, 69 RPI. They have three great wins. They beat Boise, fellow bubble team. They beat San Diego State and UNLV, who are in Lawrenceville. So, and no bad losses. So, no bad losses outside the top 100. So that's good. The bad is, though, they're barely above 500 in this strong Mountain West, and they're 4-7 on the road, and that's not exactly pretty. So, you have to beat Boise State, I think, a second time. I think that's imperative. But it may also take beating San Diego State again on March 6th to really warrant a strong look for the Falcons' chances. Arizona State, I mentioned, 19-7, but a 70 RPI. They're 8-5, yes, and a strong Pac-12, but their good wins have only come against UCLA, and they beat Colorado twice. But that again, I mentioned Colorado still not quite fully safe yet. Plus, they have an SOS way above 100, and that doesn't help matters. They can't afford a misstep, and beating UCLA again on February 27th, I think, is a must for the Sun Devils' chances. Arkansas, 16-9 record, RPI 75. Three great wins for Arkansas. I can't deny these against Oklahoma, Florida, and Missouri. Those are all solid wins against teams that are either in Lawrenceville, which Oklahoma and Florida are, or close to it, which Missouri is. But they also have a bad loss to South Carolina, and the numbers aren't awe-inspiring. But if they can sweep the Gators on February 23rd and not take another bad loss, this profile I think will definitely have more merit to it. Virginia. Boy, Virginia has one of the oddest at-large profiles that I think ever in NCAA history. They're 18-7. RPI, though, is only 77. But they're 3-1 against the top 50. I mean, they have some big wins, but they have bad losses too. Some head-scratching losses. They lost to Delaware. They lost to an Old Dominion team who fired their head coach. Only has 3 wins. 3 wins. Oh, just odd. Just very odd, Virginia. I think they're going to have to beat both Miami and Duke to really warrant serious consideration and raise those numbers. And then these last two I know are really long shots, and I know that they are and really shouldn't be on this list, but hear me out because of the fact that they have so at least they have quality wins. I know there should be no reason to even have Iowa even in consideration, but a record of 17-9, the RPI, yes, 79, there's a bad SOS of 127, but 3 quality wins. They beat Iowa State, they beat Wisconsin, they beat Minnesota, with only 1 real bad loss. If they beat Indiana and Illinois in March, maybe there's a chance that Iowa can somehow really start to impress the committee a bit. But they can't afford also bad losses their next 2 games. They're at Nebraska and at Purdue. They cannot afford to lose those games, and then they got to beat the big boys. So who knows if considering the bubble is so soft, but Iowa's got to beat the big boys and can't afford a misstep. Same with Santa Clara, and this I know is the long shot of long shots out of the West Coast Conference. I know, but hear me out. 19-8 record, a 93 RPI, yeah, that's high, but they do have a quality win to speak of on the resume. They did beat St. Louis, who I have in Lawrenceville, so at least they have that for them. But they have a few bad losses. The ugly numbers don't help their cause. If they can win on the road, though, at Gonzaga and at St. Mary's, it really may be time to take Steve Nash's alma mater a little bit more seriously. All right, guys, so that's where I stand right now on things. Those are my locks, my teams to on watch, and my bubble list for you. So again, as I said, in the coming days to come on Friday, it'll be my first bracket projection. We'll break down the matchups, who I have for who's in, who's out. Maybe share some thoughts on some games from the previous week, including tonight's Indiana-Michigan State game. I think it's going to be an awesome game. 7 o'clock ESPN. Definitely going to be an awesome atmosphere. As for who I think is going to win, boy, I just can't see Michigan State losing at home. I know IU is good. I know they've held on to #1 for 3 weeks in a row now, but man, it's tough. That's a tough environment to play in. I really, really think that Michigan State's going to take it in a very close, very grinded out game. Maybe not too high scoring. You don't really see high scoring games in the Big Ten very often. So, but I think Michigan State's going to take it. I think they're going to win. And if that happens, maybe we'll see Miami at #1 in the next week or so. So who knows? But it's definitely that's what I love because it's just so intriguing and so exciting. All right, guys. I will see you again back on Friday for my first official bracket projection. Thank you guys for being so patient and so understanding with all that went on. When I didn't have any videos up, I just really had to think about what I was going to go with this channel while of course, fantasy football's in a long off season. So the stock report's down for the season until next season, of course. But excuse me, I just really had to think where I was going after the move, and then me getting sick, and so it was just a really long thought process about what I wanted to do on this channel. And then even after March Madness is over, I'll probably shift gears to maybe the NBA playoffs or the NBA down the stretch or NHL. I don't really follow baseball all too much, so I won't talk much about it. And then maybe just really other big sports stories in general. As I've said, if there's a big sports story out there, I'm going to share my 2 cents on it. So again, thank you guys for your understanding. Again, if you have any comments on my teams and what you think, if you're a bracketologist and you have different teams on who's in and who's out, go ahead and share your thoughts, comments, questions. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and have a good week, and I'll see you back here, same YouTube, same channel on Friday. Thanks, guys.